The message came at midnight, ship time. Commander John Morrison was sleeping in his small cabin aboard the ESS Prometheus when the alarm pulled him from his dreams. He sat up quickly, his heart beating fast. In 20 years of service, he had never received a Priority 1 message. Priority 1 meant something very bad had happened. He walked to his desk and pressed the screen. The symbol of the Galactic Council appeared. 12 stars arranged in a circle. Morrison felt his stomach turn cold. The Council was the highest power in the known galaxy. They ruled over hundreds of species across thousands of worlds. And they had never, not once in 60 years, sent a direct message to a human ship. The message was short. It said that the human colony on Kepler 442b had attacked 3 ships belonging to the Valorian Dominion. 847 beings had died. Commander Morrison was ordered to appear before the Council to answer for this crime. If he did not come, the Council would consider humanity guilty and act accordingly. Morrison read the message 3 times. He knew the colony on Kepler 442b. He had visited it twice. It was a farming world, filled with families who had left Earth to build a new life among the stars. They grew crops. They raised children. They had no warships, no weapons capable of destroying anything larger than a wolf. This made no sense. He called his senior officers to the meeting room. They arrived within minutes, still rubbing sleep from their eyes. Lieutenant Una Park came first, her black hair pulled back in a tight knot. She was the ship's navigation officer, known for her calm mind and perfect memory. Behind her came Dr. Tae-ho Kim, the ship's doctor, a thin man with kind eyes who spent most of his time studying alien biology. Engineer Ji-hae Beek arrived next, grease still on her fingers from whatever machine she had been fixing. And finally, Sergeant Do-yoon Choi, the security chief, a solid man with a scar across his chin from a battle he never talked about. Morrison showed them the message. No one spoke for a long moment. "This is impossible," Ji-hae said finally. "The colony doesn't have ships that can do this. They have transport vessels, cargo haulers, nothing with weapons." "The Council believes otherwise," Morrison replied. "Then the Council is wrong," Do-hyun said. His voice was hard. "Someone is lying to them." Dr. Tae-ho Kim leaned forward, his fingers pressed together. "The Valorians are one of the founding races. They have been part of galactic civilization for 10,000 years. If they say humans attacked them, the Council will believe them. We are new. We are small. Our word means nothing against theirs." Una Park had been studying her tablet while the others talked. Now she looked up. "The journey to the Council station will take 3 weeks at maximum speed. That gives us time to study the evidence they have sent." Morrison nodded. "Show me." Una transferred the files to the main screen. They watched in silence as footage played, showing ships with human markings firing on a Valorian convoy. The weapons were bright blue, the same color as Earth's military vessels. The ships moved in attack formation, surrounding the convoy like wolves around sheep. The Valorian ships tried to run, but they were not built for combat. One by one, they exploded into bright flowers of fire. When the footage ended, the room was silent. "Those are not our ships," Ji-hae said quietly. "I know every ship Earth has built. I have worked on half of them. These are wrong. The engine placement is off. The weapon ports are in the wrong position. Someone built copies, but they made mistakes." "Can you prove that?" Morrison asked. Ji-hae hesitated. "Maybe. I need time. You have 3 weeks." Morrison gave orders. The Prometheus changed course toward the Council station called Everlight. As the stars shifted outside the windows, the crew began their work. Una Park buried herself in star charts and navigation logs, tracking every human ship in the sector. Dr. Tae-ho Kim studied the medical reports from the Valorian survivors. looking for anything unusual. G.A. Beak analyzed the debris from the destroyed ships, comparing every piece of metal to human manufacturing records. And Do Yoon Choi reached out to his contacts in the darker corners of the galaxy. People who dealt in secrets and whispers. Morrison spent his days reviewing everything his crew found, and his nights staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. He thought about the colonists on Kepler 442b, farmers, teachers, children. If he failed, they would all die. The Council's justice was swift and terrible. They had destroyed worlds before for lesser crimes. On the 10th day, Unipar came to him with something strange. The attack happened in Sector 774, she said, pointing to a region of space on her map. No human ship has ever traveled through that sector. Our navigation logs prove it. We have records of every human vessel for the past 5 years. None of them were anywhere near that location. Morrison felt a small spark of hope. Can the Council verify this? If they choose to look, yes. But they would need to trust our records. They won't trust us, Morrison said. We need more. As the Prometheus continued its journey, the evidence grew. GA found metal in the debris that did not match human manufacturing. Taiho discovered strange chemicals in the bodies of Valorian survivors, things that should not be there. Donhyun heard rumors of a shipyard that built vessels for clients who paid well and asked no questions. Someone had gone to great effort to make humans look guilty. The question was who and why. On the final day before they reached Everlight, Morrison gathered his crew one last time. We are about to face the most powerful beings in the galaxy, he said. They have already decided we are guilty. They do not respect us. They do not fear us. They think we are children playing at being a spacefaring species. He looked at each of them in turn. We are going to prove them wrong. The Council Station Everlight was the largest structure Morrison had ever seen. It hung in space like a small moon, its surface covered with towers and domes made of crystal that caught the light of 3 distant suns. Ships from 100 different worlds moved around it like insects around a hive. Some were tiny, barely larger than the Prometheus. Others were massive, carrying thousands of beings across the stars. Morrison stood at the window of his cabin and watched as they approached. His dress uniform felt tight around his neck. In 1 hour, he would stand before the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy and try to convince them that his people were innocent. Unipark's voice came through the speaker. Docking in 15 minutes, Commander. Understood. The docking process was smooth. Council guards met them at the airlock, tall beings in silver armor who said nothing as they led Morrison through the station. His crew was not allowed to come. He had to face the Council alone. The walk to the Council chamber took 20 minutes. Morrison passed through corridors of white stone and gardens filled with plants from worlds he had never heard of. Beings of every shape moved around him, some walking on 2 legs, some on 4, some floating through the air. Many stopped to stare at him. Humans were rare this far from Earth. A human walking toward the Council chamber was something no one had ever seen. The chamber itself took Morrison's breath away. It was a dome made entirely of crystal, so clear that he could see the stars through the walls. 12 thrones rose in a half circle at the far end, each one sized for a different species. The floor was polished black stone that reflected everything like dark water. And in the center of the room, there was a small platform where the accused were meant to stand. Morrison walked to the platform. His footsteps echoed in the silence. The 12 council members watched him from their thrones. He recognized some of them from the files Taiho had prepared. The Valorians sat highest, their silver skin shining in the light, their forearms folded across their chests. The Kovathi were to their left, reptilian beings with scales of deep green and eyes like black stones. The Luminari representative was not a body at all. but a shape of pure light contained in a humanoid shell. There were others too, beings of crystal and shadow and forms Morrison could not describe. The luminary spoke first. His voice was like wind through leaves. "I am High Arbiter Quellos. You stand before the Galactic Council accused of crimes against peace. The Valorian Dominion has brought evidence that vessels belonging to your species attacked and destroyed 3 of their ships, killing 847 of their people. How do you answer this charge?" Morrison took a deep breath. "We are not guilty." Laughter moved through the chamber. Not all species laughed in the same way. Some made sounds, some changed colors, some shifted their bodies. But the meaning was clear. They did not believe him. The Valorian ambassador rose from his throne. He was called Lord Thesan, and he was the largest being in the room. When he stood, he blocked out half the stars behind him. "You deny what your own eyes can see." Thesan's voice was deep and cold. "We have footage of your ships firing on our people. We have pieces of your vessels in our laboratories. We have the bodies of our dead, burned by your weapons. And you stand there and say you are not guilty?" "The evidence has been created to make us look guilty," Morrison said. "But we did not do this." Thesan made a sound of disgust. "Humans have been among the stars for 60 years. In that time, you have shown yourselves to be aggressive, ambitious, and dishonest. You spread across the galaxy like a disease, taking planets that do not belong to you, building weapons when you should be building bridges. And now you attack innocent ships and expect us to believe your lies?" Morrison felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Anger would not help him here. "I have evidence that the attack was not carried out by human ships," he said. "The metal in the debris does not match our manufacturing. The weapon signatures are wrong. The ships were in a sector of space that no human vessel has ever entered. Someone built copies of our ships and used them to commit this crime." High Arbiter Quellos raised a hand. "You may present your evidence." Morrison activated the small projector he had been allowed to bring. Images appeared in the air above him, showing Jaihe's analysis of the debris, Yuna's navigation records, Taiho's medical findings. He explained each piece carefully, using simple words that any species could understand. When he finished, the chamber was quiet. Some of the council members were looking at his evidence with interest. But Lord Thesan was shaking his head. "Clever lies," the Valorian said. "You have had 3 weeks to create false data. We have had months to verify ours." He turned to the council. "I call a witness. Someone who saw the attack with his own eyes." A door opened at the side of the chamber. A young Valorian entered, walking slowly. His silver skin was dull, and one of his forearms hung at a strange angle. He had been hurt badly. "This is Officer Thesek," Lord Thesan said. "He survived the attack. He will tell you what he saw." Thesek stood before the council and began to speak. His voice was quiet but clear. He described the attack in detail. He talked about the human faces he saw on the view screen, demanding surrender. He talked about the human voices, laughing as they fired their weapons. He talked about watching his friends die while humans cheered. When he finished, there were tears on his silver cheeks. Morrison looked around the chamber. Every face was turned against him now. The council had made their decision. They believed the survivor. Why would they not? He had suffered. He had lost everything. His pain was real, but Morrison knew something was wrong. He had seen Taiho's analysis of the survivor's medical records. The stress patterns in Thesek's body were strange. They did not match someone remembering a real event. They matched someone who had been told what to remember. Someone had put those memories in Thesek's mind. The question was how to prove it. High Arbiter Quellos spoke again. "Commander Morrison, do you have anything else to say?" Morrison looked at the young Valorian survivor, then at Lord Thesan. then at the faces of the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Yes," he said. "I request permission to question the witness." The council gave Morrison 1 hour to question the witness. It was not much time, but it was all he would get. The interrogation room was small and white, with 2 chairs facing each other across a metal table. Council guards stood at the door, watching everything. A recording device floated near the ceiling, capturing every word. Vesic sat across from Morrison, his silver eyes filled with hate. He had every reason to hate humans. He believed they had killed his friends. He believed they had destroyed his ship. He believed Morrison was part of the species that had ruined his life. Morrison did not blame him for his hate, but he needed to find the truth hidden beneath it. "I am sorry for what happened to you," Morrison said quietly. "I know you believe my people did this, but I promise you we did not." Vesic made a sharp sound. "I saw your faces. I heard your voices. Do not try to tell me what I saw was not real. I am not telling you that. I believe you saw human faces. I believe you heard human voices. But I also believe someone wanted you to see those things. Someone put those memories in your mind." Vesic's eyes narrowed. "That is impossible. My memories are my own. Are they?" Morrison leaned forward. "Tell me about the moments before the attack. Not the attack itself. The moments before. What was your convoy carrying?" Vesic hesitated. "That information is classified. You are safe here. The council is listening. Whatever you say will be protected." For a long moment, Vesic was silent. Morrison could see the conflict in his eyes. Part of him wanted to speak. Part of him was afraid. Finally, he spoke. "We were carrying terraforming technology. Experimental machines that could change a planet's atmosphere in months instead of years. We were taking them to a disputed world in the outer sectors." Morrison felt his heart beat faster. "Disputed with whom?" "The Korvathi Empire. They have claimed that world for centuries. But with our technology, we could have made it ours." Vesic's voice grew bitter. "Now the machines are gone. Destroyed in the attack." Morrison sat back in his chair, his mind racing. The Korvathi had a reason to want the convoy destroyed. They had a reason to blame humans. If the Valorians and humans went to war, both species would be weakened. The Korvathi could take whatever they wanted, but he needed more than a theory. He needed proof. While Morrison questioned Vesic, his crew was working. Unipark had not slept in 2 days. She sat in her cabin aboard the Prometheus, surrounded by screens showing star charts, shipping records, and communication logs. She was looking for something that should not exist. A ship that traveled to a place it should never have gone. And she found it, hidden in the navigation data of a small trading station. She discovered a record of 6 vessels passing through a remote sector 3 months ago. The vessels had no identification codes. Their origins were listed as unknown, but their destination was clear. They were heading toward the exact coordinates where the attack would later happen. She sent the information to Morrison immediately. At the same time, AudioBook was having a breakthrough of her own. She had spent weeks analyzing the metal from the debris, comparing it to every known manufacturing process in the galaxy. The metal was almost perfect, almost. But there was one tiny flaw. A chemical signature that did not belong to human factories. It belonged to the Kreth Collective. The Kreth were a minor species known for one thing: building ships for clients who paid well and asked no questions. If someone wanted to build fake human vessels, the Kreth were the ones to do it. GA sent her findings to Morrison. And in the darkest corners of the station, Sergeant Do-Yin Choi was doing what he did best. He had contacts everywhere. People who lived in the shadows between legal and illegal, between truth and lies. He found a worker from the Kreth shipyards. A small creature with too many eyes, who was willing to talk for the right price, thought the worker told him everything. 6 ships, built to human specifications, paid for by anonymous clients through shell companies. The money had been traced back through 17 different accounts. But the worker knew where it really came from: the Kolvathi Empire. Do-hyun recorded the conversation and sent it to Morrison. Back in the interrogation room, Morrison was still talking to Desik. The young Valorian was confused now. The questions Morrison asked did not make sense to him. Why did Morrison want to know about the moments before the attack? Why did he care about terraforming technology? "Someone used you," Morrison said gently. "Someone wanted the Valorians and humans to destroy each other. They built ships that looked like ours. They trained people to act like us. And then they attacked your convoy, knowing you would survive to tell the story." "That is impossible," Desik whispered. But there was doubt in his voice now. "Is it? Think about your memories. Do they feel real? Or do they feel like something you were told to remember?" Desik closed his eyes. For a long moment, he was silent. When he opened his eyes again, there was fear in them. "There are gaps," he admitted. "Moments I cannot remember clearly. I thought it was because of the trauma. But sometimes, when I try to remember the attack, it feels like watching a recording, not like being there." Morrison nodded. Memory manipulation is not impossible. Several species have the technology. The Kolvathi are one of them. "The Kolvathi?" Desik's voice was sharp. "Why would they do this?" "Because they wanted your terraforming technology destroyed. Because they wanted your people and mine to fight each other. Because while we are killing each other, they can take whatever they want." Desik stared at Morrison for a long moment. Then, slowly, something changed in his silver eyes. The hate was still there, but it was no longer aimed at the human sitting across from him. "If what you say is true," Desik said quietly, "then I have been a weapon used against my own people." "You are not to blame," Morrison said. "But you can help me stop this. Will you stand with me before the council?" Desik was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Yes, I will." The council chamber was full when Morrison returned. News had spread through the station that the human commander had requested to address the council again. Beings from 100 worlds had come to watch. They filled the viewing galleries above the chamber, their eyes fixed on the small platform where Morrison stood. High Arbiter Quellos looked down at him, his light form flickering with something that might have been curiosity. "Commander Morrison, you requested this audience. The council will hear you, but we warn you, our patience is not unlimited." Morrison bowed his head in respect. "I thank the council for this opportunity. I have new evidence to present. Evidence that will prove my people are innocent and reveal the true attackers." Lord Thiessen rose from his throne, his forearms spread wide in anger. "This is a waste of time. We have already heard the humans' lies. The evidence against his species is clear." "Then you have nothing to fear from hearing more," Morrison replied calmly. Quellos raised a hand. "The council will hear the evidence. Proceed, Commander." Morrison activated his projector. The first image appeared above him, showing the navigation data Yuna had discovered. 3 months before the attack, 6 unidentified vessels passed through a remote trading station, heading toward the coordinates where the Valorian convoy was destroyed. These vessels had no identification codes. Their origins were listed as unknown, but their destination proves they knew exactly where the convoy would be, months before it happened. The council members leaned forward. Even Thiessen was silent. The second image appeared, showing Jihee's metallurgical analysis. The debris from the attacking ships contains a chemical signature that does not match human manufacturing. It matches the shipyards of the Kreth Collective. Someone hired the Kreth to build copies of human vessels. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Kreth Collective's reputation was well known. The third piece of evidence was a recording. Dalhune's voice filled the chamber, speaking to the Kreth worker. The worker described the 6 ships, the anonymous payments, and the trail of money that led back to a single source. The ships were paid for by the Kovathi Empire. The chamber exploded into noise, being shouted in a dozen different languages. The Kovathi ambassador, a large reptilian named Lord Vexen, rose from his throne, his scales turning dark with anger. "This is lies," Vexen roared. "The human has created false evidence to escape justice." The Kovathi Empire would never commit such an act. Morrison stood his ground. "I have one more witness. Someone who can speak to the truth of what happened that day." The door at the side of the chamber opened. Desik walked in, moving slowly, but with his head held high. The crowd fell silent. Everyone knew who he was. The survivor. The witness who had condemned humanity. Lord Thiessen stepped forward. "Desik, what are you doing? You testified against the humans. You saw what they did." Desik stopped in the center of the chamber and looked up at his ambassador. "I testified to what I believed was true, but I have learned that my memories were not my own." The silence in the chamber was complete. "I have gaps in my memory," Desik continued. "Moments I cannot explain. When I try to remember the attack, it feels like watching something that happened to someone else. The human commander helped me see the truth. My memories were placed in my mind. I was made to believe something that did not happen." Lord Vexen laughed, but there was fear beneath the sound. "The human has tricked you. He has filled your mind with lies." "No," Desik said. "I know what lies feel like. I have been living with them for months. The truth feels different. The truth feels like freedom." High Arbiter Quellos floated down from his throne, his light form growing brighter. "These accusations are serious. If they are true, the Kovathi Empire has committed crimes against galactic law." "They are not true," Vexen shouted. "The human is desperate. He will say anything to save his people." Morrison stepped forward. "Then you will not mind if the council searches your records. If you are innocent, you have nothing to hide." Vexen's scales rippled. His black eyes moved around the chamber, looking for support. But the other council members were watching him with new eyes now. They had seen the evidence. They had heard the survivor's words, and they were beginning to wonder. "I will not submit to this humiliation," Vexen said. "The Kovathi Empire will not be treated like criminals." "Then you will look like one," Quellos replied. "Your refusal to cooperate speaks louder than any evidence." Vexen looked at Morrison with pure hate in his eyes. Then he turned and walked toward the door. Council guards moved to stop him, but he pushed through them with his massive body. "You will regret this, human," he hissed. "The Kovathi do not forget." But before he could reach the door, more guards appeared. These were not ordinary guards. They wore the black armor of the Council's Special Security Force. Behind them stood Sergeant Do-Hyun Choi, his arms crossed over his chest. "Going somewhere?" Do-Hyun asked. Vexen stopped. He looked at the guards, then at Morrison, then at the Council. He knew he was trapped. "During the interrogation, my security chief led a team to the Kreth shipyards," Morrison said. "They found transaction records, communication logs, and payment trails. All of them lead back to you, Lord Vexen. You ordered the ships. You planned the attack. You manipulated a traumatized young man into believing lies. You tried to start a war between two species so your empire could grow stronger while we destroyed each other." The chamber erupted again, but this time the anger was not directed at Morrison. High Arbiter Quellos raised both hands, and silence fell. "Lord Vexen of the Kovathi Empire, you are accused of conspiracy, murder, and crimes against galactic peace. You will be held for trial. Take him." The guards moved forward. Vexen did not resist. His scales had turned pale, and his eyes were empty. He had gambled everything on this plan, and he had lost Dot as the guards led him away. He passed by Morrison. For a moment, their eyes met. "This is not over," Vexen whispered. "For you, it is," Morrison replied. 3 days passed while the council investigated. Morrison and his crew remained on the station, waiting. They were not prisoners, but they were not free to leave either. Too much depended on what the council would decide. On the 4th day, Morrison was called back to the chamber. This time, the viewing galleries were even more crowded than before. Word had spread across the galaxy about what had happened. A human commander had stood before the council and proved his people innocent. He had exposed a conspiracy that reached to the highest levels of one of the founding empires. No one wanted to miss what would happen next. High Arbiter Quellos floated above his throne, his light form brighter than Morrison had ever seen it. The other council members sat in their places, their faces serious. Even Lord Thiessen was there, though his expression was difficult to read. "Commander John Morrison," Quellos began, his voice filling the chamber. "The council has completed its investigation. We have examined the evidence you presented. We have questioned witnesses. We have searched the records of the Kovathi Empire. And we have reached our conclusion." Morrison stood straight, his hands at his sides. Whatever happened next, he would face it with dignity. "The charges against humanity are dismissed," Quellos announced. The attack on the Valorian convoy was not carried out by human vessels. It was a false flag operation planned and executed by elements within the Kovathi Empire, designed to start a war between humans and Valorians. Relief washed through Morrison like a wave. He felt his shoulders drop, tension leaving his body for the first time in weeks. Behind him, somewhere in the viewing gallery, he heard Unipark let out a small cry of joy. Quellos continued. "Lord Vexen and 17 other Kovathi officials have been found guilty of conspiracy, murder, and crimes against galactic peace. They will face the full punishment of council law. The Kovathi Empire will pay reparations to the Valorian Dominion for the lives lost. And the human colony on Kepler 442b will be protected under council treaty." Morrison bowed his head. "The council has my deepest thanks." But Quellos was not finished. "There is one more matter to address. Commander Morrison, step forward." Morrison walked to the center of the chamber, standing directly beneath the 12 thrones. He felt the eyes of the galaxy upon him. "In 60 years of contact with humanity, we have watched your species with caution," Quellos said. "You are young. You are ambitious. You spread quickly across the stars. Many of us wondered if you would become a threat to galactic peace." Morrison said nothing. There was nothing to say. "Today, you have shown us something different. When faced with lies, you sought the truth. When faced with injustice, you fought for what was right. When the easy path was to surrender and accept blame, you chose the harder path of proving your innocence." Quellos floated lower until he was almost level with Morrison. "These are not the actions of a dangerous species. These are the actions of a species worthy of respect." A murmur ran through the chamber. This was unexpected. "The council has decided to grant humanity a new status," Quellos continued. "From this day forward, humans will be recognized as a protected species under full council law. You will have a voice in council matters. Your colonies will be defended. Your ships will be welcomed in council space." Morrison felt his heart swell. This was more than he had hoped for, more than any human had dared to dream. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "On behalf of my people, thank you." Lord Thiessen rose from his throne. The chamber fell silent. The Valorian ambassador had been the loudest voice against humanity. If he objected now, everything could change. But Thiessen did not object. Instead, he walked down from his throne and crossed the chamber floor until he stood before Morrison. He was twice the human's height, with 4 arms and skin like polished silver. He had every reason to hate humans. His people had died because someone wanted to frame humanity. Thiessen extended one of his hands. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "we have been too quick to judge your kind." Morrison took his hand. The Valorian's grip was firm but gentle. Around them, the chamber erupted into sound. Beings cheered, applauded, and made noises of approval in 100 different ways. 1 hour later, Morrison stood in the docking bay of Everlight Station, preparing to return to the Prometheus. His crew was already aboard, running final checks for the journey home. Desic found him there. The young Valorian looked better than he had days ago. The dullness had left his skin, and he stood straighter. He had spent the past 3 days with council doctors, having the false memories removed from his mind. He was still healing, but he was on his way back to himself. "I wanted to thank you," Desic said. "You could have exposed me as a liar. You could have destroyed my reputation. Instead, you helped me find the truth." Morrison shook his head. "You were a victim, not a villain. The people who used you were the ones who deserve punishment. Still, I am grateful." Desic paused. "The galaxy will remember what you did here. For the first time, humans are seen as something more than newcomers. You changed how everyone looks at your species." Morrison smiled. "We did not do it alone. My crew did the real work. I just stood in front of the thrones and talked." "That is not nothing," Desic said. "Standing alone before the most powerful beings in the galaxy, refusing to accept injustice? That takes courage. That is what humans are." Morrison thought about those words as he walked back to his ship. The Prometheus was waiting, its engines humming softly. Through the viewports, he could see the stars stretching out into infinity. There were billions of worlds out there, billions of species, billions of stories waiting to be told. Humanity was just one small part of it all. But today, they had proven they belonged. Dr. Taiho Kim met him at the airlock. "The course is set for Earth. We should arrive in 3 weeks." "Good." Morrison looked back at the station one last time. "Let us go home." As the Prometheus pulled away from Everlight, Morrison stood on the observation deck and watched the stars. Unipark joined him, standing quietly at his side. "Do you think this changes anything?" she asked. "Really changes it?" Morrison considered the question. "Today, we proved we belong out here. Tomorrow, we will have to prove it again. And the day after that." He smiled. "But that is what humans do. We keep proving ourselves, until no one can deny what we are." Behind them, the galaxy waited, vast and ancient and full of wonders. And for the first time in 60 years, it was looking at humanity with new eyes. The stars were calling, and humanity was ready to answer.